So let's see, Bob Herzog is on camera. Cheryl Revkin, that's me, is interviewing. And this is Michael McKinley. And today is March 6th, I believe, Tuesday, March 6th, 2007. So tell us where we're sitting, Michael, first.
We're sitting in Tsunami Coffee House in Silver Lake. And Tsunami Coffee House has been in operation since 1995, so like 12 years. And it came out of a vehicle to, where do I start? We started a youth at risk program maybe 2 years earlier. And we moved several times in the neighborhood for various reasons. And then we were invited actually by the owners of the building to come here.
Oh. Who are the owners of the building at the time?
Karen and Barry Mason, they still own the building.
Oh, they did?
Uh-huh.
Oh, great.
And they came and tracked us down, and we were looking for ways to raise money for our program and also create job opportunities and to have some kind of permanent space for Sunset Junction. So that was in January of 1995.
So it includes the cafe up here,
Cafe.
and where you have poetry readings.
We have open mic on Wednesday night, and we also have community functions here. Actually, we're going to do a baby shower for a local muralist that some of our young people have worked with on some of the murals in the neighborhood, like the one on Michael Tarina's school. She's having her first baby, so she donated some money to Sunset Junction. So Victor's coordinating this baby shower that's going to be on the 27th. One of the young people's parents had their 25th anniversary in here.
Oh, great.
They used the downstairs. So mostly it's a coffee house, but it's used when it's appropriate for the right thing. Then downstairs we have our offices for all of Sunset Junction, and we also have a theater space that we use for 12-step meetings. And we also use it for, we rent it out sometimes for people who like to do rehearsals. We've had casting calls for different productions. People have rehearsed plays that they're doing elsewhere. We've also used it sometimes when we have young people that are being bused to school and they live in this neighborhood and they're needing to be counseled by somebody within the city's program. We've used the room there for counseling because they're out there, the counselors here, the parents halfway across town, so it's kind of it's like a multi-use room downstairs.
Right. And do the owners of the building give you kind of a break on the rent because they invited you here? Or no, you just rent it?
What happened is we thought that would happen, and we've asked numerous times, but I guess it's a lesson in hardcore business. I mean, if we don't have the rent, then we get a 3-day or quit, and we've been through all that. And even though it's nice now, but when we first moved in here with, they actually bought the building from like a fire sale where it was one of the worst slumlords in the city. So we've gone through a lot of problems. I mean, it's up and running now, and they've done a lot of really good hard work to stabilize the building, but we've had numerous water leaks and but there's still a thing.
But you feel like you're pretty secure here in general?
Not really.
No, not really.
No.
Yeah. Well, let's just go back a little. Tell me something about yourself, like when you were born, how you got to Silver Lake.
I was born September 22nd, 1944. I'm one of 7 children, born in Idaho, and I grew up in Spokane, Washington. My family was very poor, but responsible. And what happened, I went to high school in Spokane. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to afford to go to college because my parents didn't have the money. Two things were working for me. One is I wanted out of Spokane. It was too small for me. And I wanted to go to college. So I joined the Coast Guard. And I knew that they had the VA plan where I could go to school. So a friend and I left Spokane on a train. It was the first time I'd ever been on a train, and we went to Seattle. Then we flew to San Francisco. I'd never been on a plane before. And we were all kind of like, what's going on? And kind of like in the movies when they showed up, they picked us up, and there were a bunch of us there, but it was like no talking, spit out the gum, you know, that kind of. And we went to boot camp in San Francisco, and the first day, when we got there, we had to stand on at attention on these yellow squares for hours, and then they would make us do push-up. I mean, like you see in the movies, and some people were like panicking, and some people they didn't feed us. Some people passed out. So anyway, that's a whole other story. Anyway, went there, did well, went back east to school in Revkin, Connecticut for the Coast Guard, and because I was, I think, the first in the class, I could choose wherever I wanted to go. So I was always looking at the paper, and it was always warm here. Like the weather forecast, right? As opposed to Spokane. So I said, I want to go to LA because I want warm weather. And so I was based at the Coast Guard base in San Pedro for a couple of years. That was during the Vietnam War.
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
And then what happened is I was transferred to the district office in downtown Long Beach, and we were processing people to go to Vietnam. And I would have actually ended up having to go, except for I was just about ready to get out. But what happened is, since we worked in the office, they gave us subsistence and quarters, and so a bunch of us would get an apartment together. And so I started going to Long Beach City College there while I was still in the military. And then when I was out, I don't know how I found this area, but I moved up here to over in Los Feliz, like on Vermont and near Vermont and Franklin, kind of in there. And I started working for the city, for the welfare department, unattached men's center, do you know that? And I was going to school at night, so that's how I ended up here.
I see. So it was a kind of a convenient neighborhood for your work, is what you're saying. I see.
That was downtown.
And did you know you wanted your work to be kind of like social work related?
I have no idea.
No. Service work and something?
Actually, I went to school, and I actually graduated from LACC and from Cal State LA. And I have a bachelor's degree in art, fabric design, and fine painting, oil painting. And what happened though is during all of that, I realized that working and going to school was taking too long. So I ended up going to beauty school and barber school. I thought, not that I wanted to become that, it's just that I would have my own hours, I could make money, I could work 2 or 3 days a week and go to school. So what ended up happening is out of school, I was very lucky. I had a friend that was going to Beverly Hills to get her hair cut, and they needed somebody, and very unusual. You used to have a following and work, and I got hired right away, so I worked in Beverly Hills. And what happened is I used to live in Hollywood, and I fixed up a house, and then I ended up buying over here. And
in what year?
1980.
1980. Oh, really?
And during the winter of that year, myself and a bunch of other people that lived in this neighborhood, we were very instrumental in helping to organize the first march on Washington, D.C. for lesbian and gay rights in October 1979.
I see.
And then what happened is we organized a similar, we were feeling pretty full of ourselves, a similar march in the winter of February of 1980 on Sacramento. And this was the first time this had ever been done, like lesbian and gay people saying we want our rights. And a lot of us lived in this neighborhood, and at that time there was a lot of tension between the gay and lesbian community and the gang community. And there were concerns about gentrification and homophobia. And so we decided that we didn't want to do another demonstration, but we would do like maybe a block party. And actually our first meetings were done over above Cafe Stella upstairs on that building over there. And that we realized that this was one of the most diversified areas of the city. So that I think we were one of the first people to coin the word diversity, and that we were going to celebrate diversity. And So
Excuse me, do you remember the names of some of those people? Was that Stuart Timmons and Michael Kearns, Ann Bradley, or any?
they were later.
They were later,
right?
uh-huh.
There was like myself, Joyce Azelton, Susan McGreevy, Peter Lothy, Robin Tyler, who's still like in West Hollywood. They came a little later, but I do remember those people.
Right. So you kind of identified Silver Lake as kind of a gay area and also a Latino area at that time in 1979, 1980. I mean, how would you have described the neighborhood then?
At that time?
Mm-hmm.
I think how I would describe it as one of the most diversified areas in the city. Kind of like one of the bohemian areas of the city. And the other one was more like Venice, around Venice, down there. Similar kind of makeup, but less openly gay and lesbian. And it seemed like at that time there was West Hollywood, which was really strongly identified with gay and lesbian community. And Silver Lake was, but it was more, people wanted to take the next step, not live in like a gay and lesbian concentrated area, but just wanted to be a citizen of the world, you know. And so there were a lot of people, gay and lesbian people living in this neighborhood, grateful for the gay and lesbian presence, but also wanted to be just a member of the bigger picture.
Okay. And you said there was some tension with gangs or the Latino community?
What would happen is at the gay bars, gay Latino gang members would come and like harass the patrons going in and out of the bar. So there was a lot of fear. There were perceived, you know, gay bashing or whatever. I think that unless you document it, you can't really say that that was going on. But there was a lot of heightened perception about that, and so we decided that we wanted to bring the neighborhood together. And actually, what we did was we went to some of the nonprofits in the neighborhood, like El Centro del Pueblo and the Hollywood Sunset Community Clinic and Central City Action Committee and Third Shambhala Filipino American, the Jewish Community Center, and I'm probably forgetting a few, but the AT Center, and we wanted them to sign on. One was to celebrate the diversity, also to give us credibility, because who were we, what were we doing, and we knew that for the city to let us block off a main intersection or street, that we would have to have some credibility, you know, not on a local or national level, but here in the neighborhood. So
have a coalition
right,
of people, right?
So we did that, you know, and asked them to sign on, and it was very interesting times in the sense that we did that. The first year that we set up the fair, actually, were serving up books in. I don't remember if it was El Salvadorian or some kind of ethnic restaurant, and when we were setting up that night, they didn't like it. I mean, the neighborhood was abuzz about what was going on, and they were firing gunshots at us as we were setting up, like they were trying to stop it, you know, scare us, not trying to kill us, but trying to intimidate us, right? And then what happened is we just kind of came up with the ideas we were evolving, and one with El Centro del Pueblo is that they actually were dealing with more hardcore gang members, and we told them that we wanted them to have the gangs call a truce, and we wanted them to be the security and protect the fair.
I thought that was a brilliant idea the first year. I remember gang members acting as security.
Well, traditionally they had been pushed out, you know, and we thought, well, this is what they do, and we kind of threw them a curve because, one, they didn't want to be around gay people, but here is somebody offering them power that they usually never given. So
and credibility.
Right. And so they bought into it, actually, and they did a great job. And the city and the police told us that we couldn't do it. We would have a bloodbath on the street, and they had SWAT teams on all the buildings, but we pulled it off.
We had a beer bath the first couple of years, I remember. It was more of a beer bath.
What happened, let me just end it on
Okay,
this.
sure.
What happened is, because of that, we were like instant celebrities. And then we did this little dog and pony show for a couple of years, like parading ourselves and the gang members with us to different like interviews and things like that. And it was a very novel idea. It was very progressive, but it also, a publicist couldn't have come up with a better, you know, thing. We didn't do it for that reason, but it was a great book. It got us a lot of attention.
Yeah, positive attention.
Positive attention, right.
The
Can I say
only
one
reason
more
why
thing?
yeah,
One more thing?
sure.
Is that because I know you know this person, but actually Robert Aguayo, who's the deputy director or something at El Centro, actually was one of these gang kids in the first year. He and another person, and the police were after them. And we said, put on one of our t-shirts so they'll think you would be with us. And we knew them, you know. And you can see what happened to him. You know, he's one of the kids that would have been in jail. And he's a very impressive person, you know, and running El Centro, you know, with Sandra. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you started out saying you all had the idea of having a block party, and then you shifted to the fair.
Oh, I see.
So I just wondered, did it actually start as a block party, or you just decided to call it Sunset Junction Fair that very first year, or what helped you make that leap?
Right. What happened was we were calling it a block party in our minds because we didn't want to be. We didn't really know what we were going to get, and we thought we would have about 3,000 to 5,000 people, but we did call it fair the first year. And I think the first year, I'm just guessing, we might have had 50,000 people.
Oh,
So we were just, what have we done? What have we created? You know, kind of. But our intention was like, it wasn't going to be as simple as a little bake sale or something like that. But we didn't think it was going to be. There's no way we thought it was going to be what it is.
So what did it look like the first year? Were there concessions, or the restaurants were open?
Actually, it's pretty much the same as it looks now, but much smaller, much more timid. The stages were smaller, the entertainment was, I don't want to say smaller, maybe less recognizable.
Local, there were local groups.
Well, there are
We
now.
have a lot of local ones now,
Yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
we're just on a different level. Just a little more timid, but pretty much the same. When you ask about the businesses, actually, this area was a lot of empty businesses and broken windows when we first started. And this is kind of a contention that I have along the way is I don't think that we get enough credit for really drawing attention to this business area and what it is today. And that I think anybody that would do it on any business area where you're continually focusing on an area and bringing people and exposing them to what's there and that they leave feeling good and having a good time, it's going to reinforce the business area. And but when we first came here, it was smaller, it was less sophisticated. We were less sophisticated.
Do you remember a couple of the shops? Like, was the soap plant open then?
Soap plant was here. Actually, where? Hi.
You take them all.
I'll just take it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Where the dental office and the travel agency is now, there used to be. Thank you so much. There was a wonderful building like the ones down at Venice with the arches,
Oh, yeah.
and the soap plant was in there, and several little shops in there with apartments. And actually, when Melrose started happening, and soap plant moved over there, and now they're back. What was the jewelry store next to
Next to
El Conquistador? A wonderful jewelry place.
And El Conquistador, was
Would
that
have
a
been
restaurant
there.
you went to?
Yeah. Actually, they were really very supportive. We had a lot of meetings, and we'd go there after, you know, and eat. And Jesse was really supportive. He was excited about having the festival, and Jesse's had a lot of good ideas for the neighborhood, actually. And we, like I said, the restaurant was the space that both were Tantra is now, and we would have a lot of our like social events, kickoff celebration. After the fair, we would have a wrap-up meeting. We would have it in there. When we started our youth program, Jesse would have, when we built the fountain or painting the murals, he would have a lot of the young people in there for lunch, and for a lot of them, it was the first time they ever went to a restaurant, you know, and sat at a table and ordered something. And people kind of minimalize how important that is to somebody, but huge step. We had a young man that lived next door. We were giving credit or prize or whatever for doing well in school and whatever, and he was doing really well, and so we took him to a movie. The first time he'd ever been in a movie theater. And I think people really underestimate. They don't know what's going on the inside, and how some of those things can be really key to somebody. And he was really, really good to the young people out there.
And how would you have described Triangle Park at the beginning?
At
Maybe
that time?
Yeah, the junction went down that far.
Yeah.
Did you hang out there, or?
Not really, because at that time it was a lot of there were broken sprinklers, holes, drug users there.
They'd put in a park bench and it'd be stolen within 2 days.
Right. It's kind of transitory in a negative way, meaning I think a lot. I mean, we're in inner city, and there's a lot of transitory people and homeless people, and we still have that with the fountain now. People doing their laundry and bathing, and I have really mixed feelings. I don't really fault them. I think the city needs to have a place that they can go do it and not do it there, but it also causes a problem. But no, it wasn't a good thing. It was like barren kind of dirt, and people would hang out there, and we would try to do things, but like he was saying, immediately would be taken away or destroyed.
So, didn't you have like a community garden at one point, or did you have the kids work on
We did.
a garden? Can you tell me about that a little bit?
Actually, what happened is it was our second year that we had the youth program, and we were housed where Cafe Cosby up in the back. And so we were like kind of trying to identify projects for the summer.
What year was this, Nita? In the 80s?
No, because in the 90s, early 90s,
Oh,
right?
was that much later?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Middle 90s, maybe. I'm trying to think. This was 95, 91, 92. What happened was where Pollo Loco is now, that whole lot had sat for like 20-some years, and there were sofas and needles and drugs and all that kind of stuff there. And we decided that summer we were going to clean that lot up, and we were going to do a community garden.
Now, who's we?
Sunset Junction and the youth program. The youth program. That was going to be our summer project. Because at that time, I think, it's changed out, but the youth were out of school during the summer. They didn't have on track, off track now. So we had the youth during the summer. Now it's different. We're working with some now and some go. It's like a different kind of situation. But we have this group of youth for the whole summer. So we also signed them up for the summer youth employment program. So we actually cleaned that whole lot up, and we planted a garden and put sprinklers. And then what happened is they sold it immediately because we cleaned it up. It was gone to the people that bought Pollo Loco. But the configuration over there is there was one little section that they didn't own. So we kept that part of the garden.
Nice. So maybe we ought to go back a little bit. So the junction started in 1980, around then,
1980.
80. And did the Supremes get involved somehow? And did it kind of make a leap to a much bigger event? Yeah.
Did the Supremes? Not really. Not that. I mean, I've always loved the Supremes, so I mean, they're always involved in my life. But I mean, like with Mary Wilson.
Wilson, right?
That didn't come until later, actually.
Oh, really?
That was like the 90s as well.
Okay. So the junction went on through the 80s, and it kept getting bigger, would you say?
What actually happened is we were like an overnight success, really. And we were kind of like, I mean, we had done these two big marches, whatever, but we were kind of like thanking our gang, which was a good thing and a bad thing, because of the purity of it. I think is why the event survived. The naivety of it was, what have we done? And we had to like kind of, now, how do we keep this going? How do we piece it together? What is it? So we had to like piece all that together, become a nonprofit. We weren't a nonprofit. We didn't have money because we didn't have any entrance fees, and we were just basically making it work on vendor fees and stuff like that, beer money. For a long time, we ran it out of my house. Or in the very beginning, out of a couple other people's apartments and houses, and then it kind of permanently got housed in my house. And we also went through the pain and pleasure of growing and becoming famous and successful, and how people want to identify with you but don't really want to do the work. And so people, we went through different incarnations and phases of boards and not boards, and membership and not membership, and and people kind of infighting. So the pain and pleasure of growing as an organization. And
was there a turning point? At one point, things kind of settled out, or you decided
I think
to
the turning point
formalize
for
this?
me was there was 1 year or 2 years where I wasn't visibly involved, but I was behind the scenes, because I had decided that it was the late 80s or something, that I didn't like all that. I don't like tension and fighting and all that kind of stuff, and I decided, well, maybe it's time for me to move on. But what would happen is they would elect somebody to do the festival, but they really couldn't do it until they would constantly be calling me. And then what happened is, again, I'm going to say late 80s, I'm going to say. We actually had the festival at Echo Park Lake. Have to look at the year downstairs. And part of it is kind of what's going on now. Again, it's the lack of appreciation from the business community, the lack of appreciation from the neighborhood. And so we just decided that, well, our statement is we're celebrating the diversity of Echo Park, Silver Lake, and Los Feliz, so why don't we just share this with those two neighborhoods? And what happened is we went over there, and the people in charge actually alienated some of the really key gang people that had worked with us for a long time. And one of them, I can't remember, it was like a police altercation, and they got hurt and was in the hospital, and the people didn't go see him or follow up on it, and they were calling me, and I at that time was the chair of the board of El Centro, and so it was kind of a critical time, and the person that they had put in charge was really not capable of being in charge. Well-intended, a really nice person that had worked a long time, but it was kind of moving along, and it was June, and a lot of stuff was not done. And I actually went with Sandra and Casey from the clinic to just a community meeting to see how it was. And when it was over, I went up to them and I said, I'm not trying to be in your bit, but you need to cancel this. It's not going to happen, and it'll be a disaster, and it's not going to be good, And then you also have this gang thing hanging over you, that this is one of the things we went to them and, reached out to them, and they trusted us, and then you haven't really held up that responsibility. And so, and this also was true, but we stated that the insurance costs were too high and we had to cancel it. Part of that was true, but there were some other internal, this is the first time it's ever been told publicly. But I felt it would have been a disaster, and it would have just totally destroyed the image that the event had had up until that time.
What you built up.
Right.
Yeah, that was good.
So they did do it, and what happened is then they asked me to come back and do it. And I said at that point that if I was going to do it, then I wanted control. I did not want to go through all the, groups,
Process.
and because it didn't work, and it doesn't work for the most part. And I said, I'll do it, but I'm not going to go through all that, So that was, again, I'd have to look at the year, but it was the late 80s, early 90s,
I see.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a free...
One more thing,
Sure.
Just to let people know that if anybody's been involved in an organization of any kind or helped start an organization, this is very typical of organization behavior. So it's not just 2 cents a junction. Anybody on the inside knows that this is very typical. People go through it all the time.
So it started out as a kind of a free event, like a block party event,
Right.
and then at a certain point you did start to charge.
Right.
And when was that?
I'm gonna say
Was it around that same time?
around early 90s.
Early 90s.
Right.
And was that a decision made in order to fund the projects that you're doing?
Actually, what happened was there was some perceived gay bashing at the Silver Lake Lounge. And because I was involved in Sunset Junction and the chair of the board of El Centro, they had some demonstrations in the community, and actually at this time this place was called the Grassy Knoll. And they were having community meetings here kind of addressing it and again feeling that it was gay bashing, which in fact it wasn't. But so I'll explain that. But so what happened is, because I had those two positions, I started coming to the meeting. And the people at the meetings were saying, let's get, in essence, the gang kids or the young kids and then put them all in jail. And I said, well, why don't we get some of these taggers and gang people to the meeting and get their spin on it and see what is going on, right? And actually what was going on was that it was a gay bar, and that the gay patrons would get really drunk, and they would go across the street to the hamburger place and start hitting on these young kids. And so the young kids didn't like it, so then they would start robbing them or whatever. So they kind of brought it onto themselves, but then it was, covered up as gay bashing, which it wasn't, And just one more, this is totally aside, but one time when we were here, and there was a dead body found in the dumpster behind, which was at Basco's at that time, with Le Barcito. So then it was this whole gay bashing thing again.
Was it the gay man's body?
Yes. And what happened in investigating it is that it wasn't gay bashing at all. There was some drug stuff going on in this building, and some people came and killed the person because they weren't paying their money, and they dumped it in the dumpster in the back. But without lack of information, people just ran through it. It was all in the gay rag, the gay, all that kind of stuff. But what happened is people get involved on this single focus item, but the meeting started to fizzle out, and I said, so we've gotten these young people to this meeting trying to figure out what's going on. And so we had like 15 rival gang members and taggers come to these meetings, but the meetings had fizzled out. So being involved in El Centro, I found, we found out that we could sign them up for some employment program. And so we had them engaged, so we did that, and we said that they were gonna, that's when we did the first series of murals in this neighborhood. And actually Esther downstairs was one of those young people. And what happened is, in the beginning they just wanted the money. But what ended up happening, which again we didn't perceive at all, is that they liked having someplace to go to every day. So the powers that be need to hear this. And they liked having somebody to talk to about their family problems and their school problems. And somebody who was outside of their circle that wouldn't judge them and could possibly be an advocate for them or give them some help. So after the program was over, which was a 6-week program, they kept asking, couldn't they keep coming here? So that's what motivated that we were, and again, it was like timid, but we thought, okay, we'll ask $1 donation, so we'll be able to open an office and we'll be able to have a place where these kids can come, young people. And so what happened is that was the first year, and we rented this space behind Cafe Cosmo. But what ended up happening was that we outgrew the space because there were so many young people. Once the word got out that, there's a place to go in this neighborhood, people were sitting outside, and what ended up happening I'm using happening a lot, is that the kids would be outside because we didn't have any room in the office anymore. We were doing programs and painting murals. The neighbors started calling the police and telling them that gang kids are hanging out, and a couple of times they were trying to arrest the kids because we were busy in the back. And so we had to move, so we had to need to get a bigger space, and which was under the glass building. We cleaned that whole place up. So that's when we first started asking for the $1 donation. So, and then what happened is that as the years go on, is that we needed more revenue, meaning we were paying rent and utilities, and then we actually had some of the younger people, the original people, became staff members, so we needed to have payroll, and we needed payroll taxes and all that stuff. So it just, everything gets more expensive.
Formalized.
Formalized that.
Right. Were you connected with Marshall High School in some way during that time?
A lot of we are and
Still.
were.
Mhm.
Actually, the neighborhood that we live in is we were dealing with a lot of the young people from King Middle School, which is right down the street. And then a lot of the young people that we were dealing with went to Marshall. And some of the original gang kids were going to Marshall. So we were working with both the schools, and there's a wonderful man at Marshall High School named Steve Zimmer, who I don't know where he came from, but I mean, he is a saint. And so we have an ongoing relationship with him, and he sends people to us. And
To your program who need you, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask you, how would you describe yourself? I mean, your role. I mean, do you see yourself as a business person? Do you see yourself as a mentor, you know, for youth? Do you see yourself as someone who really loves community, loves children, loves teenagers, you know, wants to help people? All of the above?
I would say all of the above.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think that I think you have to stay open to your life's journey. Because I would have never thought that I would have been doing this ever, and I think it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Why do you think you're good at it? I mean, why do you think young people really like to be around you, and you've been so successful with them?
I think because I'm alternative on some levels like they are, I think I'm really honest, and they know that, and young people can tell when people are real or not. I think I'm really, really honest and a really real person. I think I'm interesting. You know, I'm interested in the world. I think on some levels, I mean, even though I grew up very poor, I think my parents gave me really good values. And I think I'm the father that I didn't have, and the father that they don't have, which is lacking in their life. I think I'm a really sane person, a lot of common sense, and I think that they sense that. I mean, I think we're all animals, and animals are very instinctual, and I mean, you can have a cat or a dog and they will not respond to somebody, or they will. And I think people sense when somebody's real with them, cares about them, they can trust them. People need to feel safe, and I think they feel safe with me. You know, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy because I'm a white gay male and I'm dealing with Latino youth, and you know, so there's the whole machismo thing and all that, but some of the early things that kind of came up is I've always been very independent and kind of made my own path. And so I'm really not afraid of the world, you know. And I remember when we would have, like, initially, when we had the first meeting with the gang kids in here, and backing up a little bit, one of the things that you kind of see, especially with both, but with the males, is that they want to identify with male identity. And I knew, this is kind of trippy to me, but they all thought it was really cool that I was in the military. So I guess that fits into the stereotype of what maleness is. Yeah. But that got spread around in the beginning, and they thought that was really cool. And so they felt safe, even though I was gay and all that, they felt that. And I think I'm a very strong and direct person, so they feel that. And I remember, though, the first meetings with these young kids, and I just told them that they're bullshit, have to stay outside, that we want to do something for the community. I'm not letting them bring down Sunset Junction, and they just had to leave all that at the door. And what I've learned, because I'm learning every day too, is that the more boundaries you set up in an honest, real way, they feel safer, and they like it.
Yeah.
They want rules and regulations, and this sounds really bizarre, but part of their reason for getting in trouble is coming up against authority and the police, and it's a negative way, but they want boundaries. They want to be feel safe. Does that answer it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So things went from getting youth involved or gangs involved doing security to actually this youth at risk program. It kind of evolved into more things. I mean, you're kind of a business person, really running the junction, running the cafe, and you farmers market, right? And you, especially that, and you've imparted those skills onto the kids who have come here, right? So kids come here and they get involved in all of those projects. Do you want to maybe talk about the soccer team or whatever?
What I feel is I don't like bullshit, and I don't like really lottie-dottie stuff or playing and stuff. I like things that are for real. And I thought that it would be really important to get these young people involved with real life stuff, not just sit and pretend and play, because it doesn't really mean anything to them. So it took up some of their time, and they had some place to go, but to put them on the front lines of actually helping develop it and making them feel that they're needed and that they're a part of it.
And they've accomplished something.
And that they've accomplished something. And actually, say like with Edwin in the farmer's market, I mean, I just saw skills in him when he would, even though he didn't see him in himself, that he's so competent. And I was also, this is kind of a hot button issue right now. I at one point, after we went through city funding and all that, had decided that I wanted to go our own road and try to raise our own money, because with all of that bureaucracy, you're spending half your time on doing paperwork and you're not helping kids. And what happens is you get young people involved, and then the programs shift every 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden the young people you're helping you can't help anymore because they don't wear pink socks and their mother's name, whatever. And I just felt it was just not the way to do it. And so I'm still trying to figure out ways where we can generate our own money.
Be self-generated.
And I want to help, because I want to spend my time helping young people, not doing mental masturbation and paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And I also needed help. So, like with the farmer's market, he didn't see it, and but I just thought Edwin would be perfect. And my instinct was right. Thank the universe, not me. And that it turned out to be one of the better markets in the city, and he's always getting calls from the other new markets or whatever to see if he'll be their market manager. So just kind of those instinctual kind of things, and to make it feel like it's a real thing, that they're needed, otherwise it's not going to work. And also to try to, since I'm dealing with Latino youth, to try to put Latinos in power so they can mentor their own people instead of me as the white person doing it. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. Meaning white people are okay too, but it's really important that they have their own role models to look up to. And Edwin, Victor, I mean, they're fine people, and that these young people now just think they're cool and they want to be like them instead of like a gang member or something like that. So that's what I tried to do. And
so at this point, you get some referrals from Steve Zimmer, from Marshall High School. Kids come into your program here, and they help to set up the farmers market. They help to organize Sunset Junction. Do you still have a soccer team? Are there other things like that going on?
Right. What happened in the beginning, this is just how things change. In the beginning, just have all the young people come here because that was how they wanted the program to run. And then what happened is the models changed, and then they wanted the youth to stay at the schools, and we would go to the schools. Where we're at now is that we are working with LeConte Middle School in Hollywood. We have an after-school soccer team there, so we're part of Lacer and LeConte Middle School. And what we do is we provide the sports section of their program, meaning what happens is the young people, they want to keep them engaged after school. A lot of them, there's no parents at home, and so they want to keep them busy. So after school, they can go through the Laser program or to us, and they can choose something that they want to do, like homework help, sports,
music,
whatever. And if you need to get through, you can here.
It's okay. Want to go over? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so we do the soccer portion.
You do.
And then what we also do is we meet with the young people. And what we found, especially with the young males, is that if we engage them in the sport, then they start talking about their needs. And then we can either refer them or help them. Meaning, so once we get them in the soccer program, then we start asking them as well, how are you doing in school? What's going on? We want to, meaning kind of casual, but are you off track, on track? How's it going? Then they start, and so then we start helping them. And if we don't have the facility or whatever, then we refer them to the clinic or health center or to do that. Then what happens is to graduate from Marshall High School, you have to have 20 hours of community service. So this is March, so we're going to start getting a lot of referrals because most of the students haven't really thought about it or they kept it themselves, and they either need that or they need 100 hours or they need more hours to get to graduate. So we work with the school, and what can happen is we have 3 students doing it now. If they can come to Sunset Junction after school or on the weekend and they do hours, and they can accumulate the 100 hours and then they get 5 credits. What we're working with now is we have one young man who having family problems and he stole something in Costco. So he's having to work off hours that his probation officer gave him, work off hours to graduate and do the 20 hours of community service. And he's done most of it, and so he's going to graduate. And then we're trying to decide, we want to keep him going, say, through until after the fair. We have another young man that was here for a year and a half, left and was doing really, really well, but has backslid, so he's going to be back today. And then we have another young man that, it's not always men, it's actually kind of interesting. We had all women, all men, and mixed, and it's, right now it seems to be all men. So we just take whoever they send us. And, he's actually doing really well. He's going to graduate from honor school in I think June, and he just needed some credit and he needed a little part-time job. So we get those kind of referrals, and then we're going to start getting a lot of, like I said, referrals of young people that need the hours to graduate. So what they'll do is either help us here, help us in the office, or they'll work out the street there, and then they'll sign on. So different, we have a board member who lives in Beverly Hills, but her daughter and her friend needed to do the 20 hours in Beverly Hills, so they came and helped Edwin at the farmer's market for 3 weeks, and so we signed him up. So just a vehicle for people to be able to do that. And then every once in a while we get somebody in really serious crisis and they want us to deal with them. So it's different.
So there are different organizations that make referrals to you, to your youth at risk program, basically.
Mostly at this point it's the schools or friends of the people that we're dealing with, people in the neighborhood, some organizations, but seems like we refer more just because of what they have, more programs, more facilities.
Okay. I was kind of wondering how you feel after the junction's over every year. What's your life like after that? Because it takes up at least half a year putting it together.
Most of the year.
Most of the year, yeah.
It really depends on the year. Sometimes we feel glorious and tired. Sometimes, like the last couple of years, really unappreciated and tired. It's a good tired, because when you see all the people out there having a good time, people that would normally not be together, like rubbing shoulders with each other, you kind of have to look at that. Like I remember this last year we had Ashford and Simpson up on stage, and to see all these different people of color and sexual identity and old people, they were all up there singing and happy, and we had young people behind the stages that were kind of blown away, but pulling and doing a great job. That's kind of what you have to look to, and all the other stuff, it kind of throws you for a minute, and you have to look to that afterwards people come and thank us, and I think also the young people, in the beginning it was perceived as a gay festival, which is not now. And I have gay kids stopping me on the street wanting to know if they can work at the event. That would have never happened in the beginning. And it sounds small, but that's a huge thing, that a huge shift in public perception, that they would feel comfortable enough to talk to a white gay male and ask them, hey, do you think? I think that's a huge shift. You have to try to stay focused on that.
Well, I think, we want to look around. We want to maybe shoot this and go downstairs and see your office. And, I feel like I want to officially and formally thank you for putting Silver Lake on the map, I think, and for...
Terry,
no, really.
I love this woman.
And no, but really, but I think even more than that, for the work that you've done. I mean, really, that's, to me and my personal values, the most important work that there is. So it's great, and I'm sure to pull the diverse communities together the way you did, and to eliminate hostility, and to give kids an idea of the future.
Ownership in their community.
Absolutely, that's just great, and that's a lot of why I'm in Silver Lake. So, and I'm
What
sure
is
there are
your
other people.
perception of it?
Of
Sunset Junction and what's happening?
Well, personally, I still see it that way. I do see the Latino community integrating probably more with the rest of the community, whether it's the gay community or the white community, period. And at that particular event, for families and single people to come together, it's really what remains in Silver Lake, a very positive example of diversity and togetherness, and putting music together with good vibes, good feelings, and good food and everything else. So it's great. I think it's wonderful.
I think it would be. I'll tell you in just a second. I think it's important to note for the tape and for the record and for the archives that Dr. Cheryl Revkin is president of the Chamber of Commerce, and so she is also involved. And then on a personal note, I want to thank you for doing this interview, and you are an amazing man. And I've lived here all these years, and I've never heard of you, never seen anything you did, and if it weren't for Cheryl, I never would have met you, and it's an honor because what you're doing is astounding. It's true community service in the best sense of the word. Now, I'll tell you, my answer to that is, I'm a few years older than you are, and I went to the first dozen, the Sunset Junction Street Fair, and of course, as a gay man, I was in all the bars and up and down the street, and I thought it was an amazing event. And then it became de rigueur. It became kind of like I started losing interest as I was losing friends during that, the 90s, the early 90s, and then I just stopped going. Although I did go a couple of years ago with a woman friend of mine, and we enjoyed it, and we thought it was terrific, and we wound up at El Conquistador on the balcony.
Drinking again.
Drinking again, yeah. But I think it's well worthwhile, and I'll be sure to be at the next one this coming summer.
You know what, and this is not to be Pollyanna or all, but this young man right here, okay, he came here through the soccer team, and he was like bad behavior. A couple of his friends had been killed in a drive-by at that time. We had a little shrine downstairs. He's been in and out or whatever, but he is going to make it, okay? And he just found, he was hanging out with the hardcore mafia, all that stuff. He just found out, I don't want this out to you, but
do you want me to?
yeah.
We have 7 minutes left. Should I shut this
Turn
off?
this off of it, yeah.
All right, we're about to leave the upstairs and go downstairs to Michael's office. Ahead of me goes Cheryl. I'm going to shut the camera off so I don't fall down and kill myself.
How are you doing?
Okay.
Cheryl? Is everything going well?
Yeah, things are much better.
Okay.
Okay, so Michael, you're on again.
Oh, we're-
These are soccer trophies up here. Soccer
That your
teams.
kids won?
Right.
Great.
There's some on the
And-
desk here.
On the wall over there are some awards, I guess, from the city of LA. And
Different, Esther took this at the Charo, the speaking leadership thing.
oh, Cheryl? Did you?
Charo,
Oh.
he took that. Different city things. There's a Coro, is it Coro right there? And I told them to do it because it's validating, and when people come in, they respect them a little more. And actually, I used to have a whole wall. I have drawers full of them, but I just got over it.
Awards?
Yeah. I just have about 30 or 40 of them because I got tired of it. So.
Who sits over here? I mean, are these other people who are on the staff?
Oh, these would be like when we have students come in and we're working on projects. These dads, this is Edwin, this is Esther, this is me. But the youth come in and like we'll be folding applications or we're doing music submissions. So they'll listen. Just different things that like we're working on the accounting. Edwin's teaching one of them how to do it. We do all of our own accounting and then we give all the final paperwork to the accountant.
I see.
But they go through and reconcile everything, so he's teaching them how to do that.
For the farmer's market?
For the whole,
for the whole thing?
Sunset Junction.
Wow, that's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah, your budget for Sunset Junction, would you say, is how much
The
approximately?
whole organization or the festival?
Including the festival? Yeah.
About 700,000, 750, I would think.
Right. To put the whole thing together.
Well,
administrative?
About 750,000.
Wow.
To run the market upstairs, the program, the festival.
Right. And then to run the farmer's market, how much is that? I mean, that's another...
That's included in that.
That's included?
Well, kind of because what I have is Edwin works part-time on the farmer's market, part-time on the street fair, and then part-time with the youth program. Esther works part-time on the street fair. He does the youth program. So it depends. We have it broken up, trying to maximize the dollar.
But you have to put it all together.
Right.
And then, Bob, there's another room here, so we can show them that. Okay. So there used to be a shop down here, but they moved upstairs.
Right. So this is our boardroom.
This is the boardroom is in here. It's kind of dark, and then this room this is the theater room.
Yeah.
And 12-step meetings here, right?
Kind of dark in here, but they like it that way.
So are there some youth 12-step meetings, or is it mostly for
We
adults?
don't have yet, but I want to actually. 'Cause I'm finding out from the one young person that's going to come back today that's a problem, and I think it would be really good. I think he's 17 and the other one are older. I don't think he would feel comfortable going. So
I'm about to run out of tape.
Okay.
maybe that
we
would
want
be
to go
something
upstairs.
he could
Yeah.
do himself, help him organize it.
Yeah.
Here we're outside, taking a look at the front of the building. This building must date back to the early 1920s. We're looking east on Sunset Boulevard, south, and west.
There's something in here thought would be good. Down towards the juice bar. There are a couple of posters on the wall.
Yeah, let's get those. I've got a minute and a half.
Okay, see if there's Sunset Junction, the movie. Up there.
We're looking at Sunset Junction posters. This is, after all, a store and a coffee shop and a juice bar.
Diana Ross.
How is Diana Ross involved in
Well, I
this?
thought they funded this program. Anyway, the soundtrack over here from the movie Sunset Junction is there. They sell it here. It's great music, really excellent music, which you'll find out. And then at the same time, here's a little flyer for the open mic on Wednesday nights here.
Just going to make it, Cheryl. Okay, Say goodbye, Cheryl.
Goodbye.